Holding them accountable. A Senate panel will vote this week to subpoena Obama-era officials, lawmakers hoping to question them on the unmasking of Carter Page and Hunter Biden's involvement with Burisma. Former DOJ official Francie Hakes joins me now. Francie, always great to talk to you about this, but we've been talking about this stuff for 3 years at this point. Why now? Why are we just voting on these subpoenas now?
Yeah, Todd, you know, it's great to be with you. And it's really frustrating to be with you on this topic because this has been going on now for years. I don't understand what the Senate, you've got these senators, you've got Lindsey Graham, they're all talking about subpoenas and the Russia investigation. And listen, I believe that it is the biggest political legal scandal in our country's history. There's no doubt that there was a massive amount of corruption. We've had an FBI lawyer already plead guilty to making false statements, getting a FISA warrant on an American citizen in a political campaign. But what has taken so long is my question. Once the IG report and the Mueller report were out, why weren't subpoenas being issued then? Why is it now? The problem with this, I think, Todd, is that it makes it look political because we've got a presidential campaign, and it shouldn't be political.
Take a look at these individuals that could potentially be subpoenaed. Andrew McCabe, of course, the former Deputy FBI Director, Bruce Ohr, former Associate Deputy Attorney General, Jonathan Weiner, former State Department official. You know, to your point, Francie, at least on this program and throughout a number of programs, a lot of criticism was levied at Democrats following the Mueller investigation, following the IG report, saying we're going to get to the bottom of this, even though Mueller and the IG did their job doing that. I feel like this is a similar situation, only the Republicans are the one trying to get to the bottom of what was already gotten to the bottom of. What new information do Senate Republicans expect to find in this that hasn't already been brought out?
Well, you know, it's interesting, Todd. There is constantly new information coming out about this investigation, and that's what's been so frustrating. It's a drip, 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 even though Bill Barr is in charge and President Trump is nominally in charge of the Justice Department, at least supposed to be. We still have information. Just this week, we heard about phones that have been wiped among the Mueller team multiple times, accidentally or on purpose, whatever the truth of the matter is, so that we'll never see those communications between them. So there is new information that constantly comes out, but all of this information should have come out first with Mueller. Mueller should have had all of this information and should never have destroyed evidence. He didn't go deeply enough into the origins of the Russia investigation. And so I think it's a legitimate line of inquiry. Okay. My big question, though, is why is it taking so long?
It's not just Senate Republicans keeping this thing alive. Obviously, the Democrats and certain former members of the FBI are as well. Let's listen to Peter Strzok.
I believe that Donald Trump is compromised by the Russians. And when I say that, I mean that they hold leverage over him that makes him incapable of placing the national interest, the national security ahead of his own.
I mean, how much longer are we going to deal with this, Francie?
Well, Todd, you know, that statement by him is shocking. I'm so grateful he's no longer in a position of power and authority in this government. There is not a one single shred of evidence that has ever been true that the president was compromised by the Russians. It was a fallacy. It was a fantasy from the beginning. And Peter Strzok ought to be laughed out of town instead of given a platform. It is just appalling.
Let's switch gears entirely, Francie. There are calls for a criminal investigation into this new Netflix film, Cuties. There's a lot of controversy surrounding this film. Let's take a quick listen to what Senator Ted Cruz had to say about it.
Federal law makes it a crime. It is a felony to distribute child pornography. If you have child pornography, if you have kids engaged in sexual activities, if you produce it, if you distribute it, you face criminal penalties. Yeah. And Netflix is making a ton of money.
The accusation is that Netflix and this film Cuties are exploiting young girls. Do you see a federal crime here like Ted Cruz is alluding to?
Yeah, I do, Todd. It's certainly possible. I wrote a column about it this week, last week on Friday in the Washington Examiner, and I analyzed that very question. is making and distributing this film a federal crime. I prosecuted these cases for many, many years. I understand what child pornography is. Unfortunately, I've had to look at an awful lot of it in the course of my employment with the Department of Justice. And it is the sexual exploitation of children to have the lascivious display of the genitals, as you have here in this movie. And it's not just, people are downplaying it. Some of the critics are saying that this is just suggestive dancing or even just twerking. It is not. It is little girls that are 11-year-olds simulating sex with these come hither looks on their faces. And that is the very definition of a lascivious display of the genitals, as the camera angles go in and focus on these little girls' genitals. And what I want to know is, how many adults were involved in this, Todd? How many people watched this? Who trained them? How many weeks did it go on? I certainly hope the Department of Justice is going to investigate.
Well, Netflix did release a statement on Cuties. It reads as follows: Cuties is a social commentary against the sexualization of young children. We'd encourage anyone who cares about these important issues to watch the movie. It certainly is an interesting response, Francie. We will see. This story is not going away. We appreciate your insight on it this morning. Francie.